You might argue, you might stumble, but when it's from God, even the storms bring you closer. Let that settle in your chest for a second, my friends, because somewhere along the way, we were taught that real love should be smooth, seamless, painless. We were told that if it's hard, it can't be right. That if there are disagreements, doubts, or moments that shake you, it must not be from God. But hear me clearly, that's not truth. That's not how God works. This world wasn't built without storms, and neither are relationships. Even the right man, the man God has for you, won't come wrapped in perfection. He'll come with challenges, with growth, with reflection. But here's the key. The right love doesn't destroy you in the storm. It roots you deeper. So before we dive in, take a second to press that like button and hit subscribe. Not because this is some channel hype thing, but because every time you lean into wisdom, you get a little closer to walking in the love that was already written for you. Stay with me. This journey we're on, it's about alignment, not illusion. Hey ladies, imagine this. You're standing on a beach right before the tide turns. The wind picks up, the sky darkens, and everyone runs for cover. But you've got someone beside you, not running, not retreating, just standing, shoulders relaxed, eyes steady. Storm coming or not, he stays, not to control the weather, but to weather it with you. That's what we're talking about today, because you're not here to find a fantasy. You're here to recognize truth, to recognize the man who doesn't walk out when the emotions get messy, the one who doesn't fold when communication gets hard, the one who might raise his voice at times, but never lowers your value. And that man, he's not found in perfection. He's found in the sacred tension between grace and growth. See, some of you have been mistaking peace for quiet, but real peace isn't silence, it's presence. It's knowing that even when voices rise, hearts remain anchored, that when the world spins, your connection stays still. That is what God gives. And this isn't about wishful thinking or fairy tale vibes. It's about recognizing the signs that your soul and God are in agreement. And I'm about to give you 3 undeniable clues that do more than spark your heart. They'll clear your mind, they'll deepen your love. They'll help you see not just who he is, but who you are when you're with him. Because let's be honest, everybody talks about the one, but nobody tells you how to recognize him, how to separate chemistry from covenant, excitement from alignment, attraction from assignment. That's what we're doing here. And maybe you just met him. Maybe you haven't met him yet. Or maybe you're already standing next to him and didn't realize what you've got. Wherever you are, these clues will shift your spirit. They'll whisper truth, and they'll help you stop wondering and start knowing. So stay with me, my friends, because what we unpack in the next few minutes, it's not theory, it's not fantasy, it's soul-level alignment. And once you see it, you won't unsee it. Once you feel it, you won't chase anything less again. Now, let's go. Number 1, it's not about perfection. It's about peace in the chaos. God's best won't always feel perfect, but even in the chaos, you'll feel covered. Let that one breathe in your spirit, my friends, because some of you have been walking around thinking that God's man means flawless days and fairy tale nights, that the moment it gets hard, the moment voices rise or misunderstandings show up, it must mean this ain't it. But the truth? That's not how divine love works. That's not how real, God-rooted relationships are built. They don't avoid the mess. They move through it together. Let me be real with you. You can find someone who brings you flowers every Friday and still feel emotionally starved on Sunday. You can have someone who texts good morning religiously but disappears emotionally when you need him most. Consistency in behavior is one thing, but what God sends, that's consistency in presence. That's a love that doesn't run when it rains. A love that says, I may not get it right every time, but I'm not going anywhere. Imagine this. You're inside a cabin in the woods. Rain is pounding the roof, lightning cracks the sky, wind howling like it's got something to prove. The storm outside is real, but inside, there's warmth, there's light, there's a man beside you, not pretending the storm isn't there, but holding space with you through it. He passes you a blanket, pours some tea, leans in and says, we're good, let it rain. That, my friends, is what God's man feels like. And now I know what some of you are thinking. But what if we fight? What if we don't agree on everything? What if we have tension? Doesn't that mean he's not the one? No, it means you're human. It means you're growing. See, we've been tricked into thinking that love is supposed to feel like permanent ease. But permanent ease isn't love. It's numbness. Growth requires friction. Real intimacy means stretching. Two souls learning to move as one, that's going to create sparks, and not just the romantic kind. Carl Jung once said, true harmony isn't the absence of conflict, it's the integration of opposites. Read that again, because that right there, that's your reminder that real love doesn't avoid your differences. It honors them, it holds them, and it learns how to build a rhythm out of the chaos. Let's go deeper. The man God sends you won't always bring sunshine, but he will bring shelter. He's not going to solve every problem, but he'll show up when you're in the middle of it. He won't have all the right words, but he'll say, we're not ending over this. Let's figure it out. Because the clue you're looking for isn't how perfect it feels, it's how safe you feel, even when everything's messy. You'll know you found something real when the fights don't feel fatal, when the silence isn't weaponized, when you don't walk on eggshells after a disagreement, because even when there's tension, there's trust. Even when you argue, there's respect. And maybe no one told you this before, but you're allowed to have hard days in holy relationships. You're allowed to disagree and still be deeply in love. You're allowed to feel frustrated and still know this is your person. Because God's plan for your love life was never perfection, it was peace. And peace doesn't come from avoiding storms. Peace comes from knowing who you're weathering them with. Stay with me, my friends, because next we're going into something deeper, something most women overlook. It's not about how often he says the right thing. It's about what he does when he knows he hurt you. Because the man God sends, he doesn't just hear you, he repairs with you. Let's keep going. Number 2, he doesn't just hear you, he repairs with you. The man God sends won't just listen to your pain, he'll lean into it with you. And that's the real difference, my friends, because anybody can nod their head. Anybody can say, I hear you, while their mind is halfway out the door. But when it's real, when it's aligned, he doesn't just hear your words, he feels your weight. He pays attention to what's underneath the silence. He doesn't just want to fix the moment, he wants to understand your heart in it. See, we live in a world full of fast apologies and half listening. A world where my bad is supposed to make up for deep emotional wounds. But God's man, he moves differently. He doesn't run from hard conversations. He walks right into them, not because he enjoys the discomfort, but because you matter more than his ego. Imagine this. You hand him broken glass, not literal, but emotional. A moment that cracked you open, a past trauma, a fear, something he did that stung deeper than he realized. And instead of pulling away like you're too much, he leans in. He doesn't panic, doesn't try to shut you down or make it about himself. He just sits with you. And little by little, he takes those shards and starts creating something new, something stronger, something more beautiful than what was there before. That's what it looks like when a man repairs with you. You're not asking him to be perfect. You're asking him to be present, to be real enough to admit when he's wrong and mature enough to make it right, not with empty promises, but with shifted behavior. That's what healing partnership looks like. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't mean he'll always know what to say. He might get it wrong sometimes. He might need space to process too. But his spirit, it's oriented toward restoration, not avoidance. He's not there to win arguments. He's there to win with you, to figure it out together. Carl Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. That's it right there. A man who's done some soul work, who's looked his own flaws in the face, isn't afraid of yours. He doesn't shame your emotions. He honors them because he's not trying to protect his pride. He's trying to protect your bond. And that's the real sign, my friends. You'll know it's different when you bring your brokenness and he brings his grace. When you speak up and he doesn't shrink back, he rises. When you say, that hurt me, and instead of deflecting, he says, teach me how to love you better. That's not weak. That's wisdom. That's work. That's what it means to be emotionally available, even if imperfect. And if you've never experienced that before, I want you to know you can, you will, because love like that doesn't avoid the wound. It tends to it. Now stay with me because next we're stepping into the third clue, and it's one that most people misunderstand. It's not about never disagreeing. It's about never disconnecting, even when you do. Let's go. Number 3, you disagree, but you don't disconnect. The presence of conflict doesn't mean the absence of connection. In fact, real love knows how to bend without breaking. That's the truth most people miss, my friends. We've been conditioned to believe that if you fight, it means something's wrong. That tension equals toxicity. That disagreement is danger. But that's not love. That's fear dressed up as a fairy tale. Because even in the strongest, most spirit-led relationship, you're going to clash. You're going to hit moments where your perspectives split. But the question isn't, do we disagree? The question is, what happens after we do? See, the man God sends you won't shut the door just because things get heated. He won't use silence as punishment or withdrawal as control. He doesn't storm out when the conversation gets uncomfortable, and he doesn't throw us away over a bad moment. Why? Because he knows that love isn't measured by how quiet things stay. It's measured by how quickly you find your way back to each other when the noise hits. Let me paint the picture. You're in a moment, maybe it's over something small, maybe it's deep. Voices raise a bit, emotions swell, the room feels tense. But underneath all that, the foundation stays solid. Even when your words are sharp, his presence is steady. You feel the push and pull of emotion, but you don't feel the threat of loss. Because deep down, you both know this isn't the end. This is just the work. This is growth, not goodbye. It's like this, imagine two people rowing a boat side by side. Suddenly a storm hits, waves crashing, rain falling, current pulling. And for a moment, you might not row in sync, you might yell directions, lose rhythm, but you never drop the oars, you never jump ship, because the goal isn't to win the argument. The goal is to keep moving together. That's what God-anchored love feels like. You're on the same team, even when you're on opposite sides of the issue. Now hear me clearly. This isn't about tolerating disrespect. This isn't about shrinking to keep the peace. God's man won't ask you to make yourself small to avoid conflict. What he will do is meet you in the middle, not just to settle things, but to strengthen them. He's not looking to dominate the disagreement. He's looking to understand it. And because here's what happens when it's real. You don't fight to wound each other. You fight to reach each other. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And when you're in the right connection, your disagreements don't just reveal friction, they reveal opportunities for deeper healing, deeper trust, deeper love. That's your sign, my friends. And it's not that you never fall out of rhythm, it's that you keep choosing to come back into sync. You recover together, not apart. You don't weaponize distance. You build bridges again and again with grace, humility, and that deep, unshakable knowing. We're not enemies, we're a team. And next, we're stepping into something even more intimate. It's not just about who stands with you in conflict, it's about who chooses you, flaws and all, every single day. Let's go deeper. Stay with me. Number 4, he sees your flaws and still chooses you daily. The man God sends won't fall in love with your image, he'll fall in love with your reality. That means all of you, my friends, not just the highlight reel, not just the poised, pretty, polished version you think you're supposed to be, but the parts of you you've been taught to hide, the insecurities, the contradictions, the unfiltered emotions, the moments where you're not smiling, not on, not okay, and still, he chooses you. Because here's the truth no one talks about. The wrong man will make you perform. He'll fall in love with the role you play. But the right man, the man God aligns for your journey, he sees behind the curtain. He doesn't flinch at your complexity. He doesn't walk away when the mask comes off. He stays. Not because he's blind to your flaws, but because he knows love isn't about perfection. It's about presence. Let me give you the picture. Imagine a sculptor standing in front of a block of marble, flawed, chipped in places, uneven, still raw. The wrong person walks past and says, too messy. But the sculptor, he doesn't see a problem. He sees potential. He knows the value's already inside. It just needs to be revealed with patience, care, and time. That's how the right man loves you. He doesn't need you to be finished. He just wants to walk the process with you. Carl Jung called it the shadow, those parts of us we hide, suppress, deny. And yet, it's in the integration of the shadow that we become whole. The right man doesn't just love your light. He honors the shadows too. He doesn't shame your struggles. He holds space for them. And because of that, you stop performing. You start trusting. You relax into real intimacy. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what if I'm too much? What if I show him the real me and he leaves? What if I break the illusion and lose the connection? But here's the thing, if love depends on illusion, it was never real to begin with. God's man doesn't need you to be a statue. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for truth. He's not attracted to the polish. He's drawn to the purpose inside of you. He sees the woman God is shaping and he says, I'm still here. Let's grow through this. This is how you'll know, my friends. You'll stop feeling like you're being watched and start feeling like you're being witnessed. You'll stop wondering if today's version of you is enough, because every day, in quiet ways, in subtle moments, he'll choose you, not for who you might become, but for the soul that already exists underneath it all. God's plan for love isn't rejection, it's refinement. Real love will challenge you, yes, but it will never erase you. It will call out the best in you, even while sitting with you at your worst. And coming up next, we're talking about a love that doesn't just say the right things, but proves them. Because the man God sends doesn't apologize with charm, he apologizes with change. Stay with me. It's about to get real. Number 5, he apologizes with action, not excuses. A man's apology means nothing if his actions stay the same. God's man doesn't just say, I'm sorry, he shows you he means it. Let's talk about that kind of love, my friends. Because somewhere along the way, too many women were taught to settle for charm over character, to believe that a soft voice, a quick "my bad," or a bouquet of flowers was the same thing as accountability. But the truth is, a real man, a God-sent man, knows that words without change are just noise, and love without growth, that's not love, that's ego with good manners. Let me ask you something. Has anyone ever told you, I didn't mean to hurt you, and yet they keep doing the same thing that hurts you? Have you ever been in a situation where someone apologized to ease their own guilt, but not to honor your healing? That's not what we're talking about today, because when it's real, when it's God-aligned, he doesn't just want the tension to go away. He wants you to feel safe again. Imagine this. There's broken glass on the floor. You're barefoot. He sees the mess. The wrong man says, be careful, don't cut yourself, and walks away. But the right man, the man who's emotionally grounded, spiritually aware, and truly invested in you, he gets on his knees and sweeps it up before you even take a step. That's what real apology looks like. Not a performance, not a gesture, a response rooted in protection and humility. Because let's be honest, he's going to mess up. Every man will. He's going to say the wrong thing. He's going to miss a cue. He's going to let emotion get the better of him in a moment. But here's what sets him apart. He sees it, he owns it, and he corrects it without needing to be begged, threatened, or guilted into it. That's what accountability looks like. He doesn't twist the narrative to avoid discomfort. He doesn't shut down or shift the blame to you. He doesn't make you feel guilty for bringing up your pain, because God's man doesn't need to protect his pride. He protects your peace. Carl Jung once said, a man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. In other words, a man who has not faced his flaws cannot lead with humility. And a relationship without humility, that's just two egos bumping into each other, pretending to be close. But the right man, the one God sends, isn't afraid to look in the mirror. He doesn't shrink from responsibility. In fact, he sees making things right as part of his love for you. Not something extra, not something he does just to move past the moment, but something he does to build trust for the long haul. And when that happens, you start to relax. Not because everything's perfect, but because you know you're with someone who learns from his mistakes instead of repeating them. So the next time he says, I'm sorry, don't just listen to the words, watch what follows, because real love, it doesn't just apologize, it adjusts. And next we're going even deeper, because love isn't always consistent moment to moment, but when it's real, when it's anchored, you'll always find your way back to each other, even after distance, even after disconnect. Stay with me. The next clue is about that sacred return. Number 6, you might drift, but you always return. Real love doesn't need constant closeness to stay connected, because when it's from God, even distance can't dilute the bond. Let that sink in, my friends, because love that lasts isn't just about the days when everything feels easy and the connection is effortless. It's about what happens when life gets loud, when schedules stretch thin, when emotions wear down, when silence fills the space where sweetness used to live. That's when you learn if this is love or just convenience wrapped in affection. The truth is, even with the right man, even with the God-ordained relationship, there will be seasons where you feel off, where the rhythm changes, where the fire turns to embers, and in those moments the wrong connection will fade. But the right one, it always finds its way back, because love like that doesn't disappear, it returns. Imagine this. Two lighthouses standing on opposite shores. The fog rolls in thick. The waves crash. The night stretches long. You can't always see him. Maybe he can't fully see you, but both lights still flicker, still pulse, still search. And somehow, even in the gray, even in the stillness, you feel that signal. He's still there. You're still there. The line never breaks. It just waits for the fog to clear. That's what God-centered connection feels like. It's not always intense. It's not always present in the way you want, but it is faithful. It is anchored. It knows how to come back. Some of you have been conditioned to panic when things cool off. You've learned that distance means danger, that a late text, a quiet week, a shift in energy must mean the beginning of the end. But let me tell you something. When a man is grounded, when a man is sent, he doesn't disappear when the vibe changes. He doesn't ghost you to protect his pride. He grounds you by returning. He checks in. He makes space. He says, I know it's been off. Let's find our rhythm again. Not because he has to, because he wants to, because his soul knows yours even when life tries to make you strangers. Carl Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what he didn't say out loud, and what we've learned the hard way, is that transformation takes time. And sometimes in the middle of becoming, there's distance. But real connection doesn't panic. It trusts the return. Here's your sign, my friends. You don't have to beg for attention. You don't have to chase clarity. Because no matter how far life pulls you apart, your bond never forgets its way home. That's not fantasy. That's alignment. That's emotional maturity. That's love that listens even when it's quiet. So if you've ever wondered, what if we drift? What if the spark fades? Remember this, the right man may get distant for a moment, but he'll never leave you in the dark, because the man God sends doesn't vanish. He circles back every time. And what's coming next? We're going to talk about the deeper foundation, because it's not about being the same. It's about walking in the same direction, different hearts, shared purpose, the kind of alignment that lasts. Stay with me. We're getting close now. Number 7, you're not always alike, but you're aligned. The right relationship isn't about being identical, it's about being in rhythm. Alignment isn't sameness, it's shared direction. Let's break that down, my friends, because somewhere along the way, we were told that compatibility means finding someone who thinks exactly like us, talks like us, reacts like us, that perfect love is two people mirroring each other, never clashing, always agreeing. But that's not alignment. That's illusion. In truth, the man God has for you may not be your carbon copy. He may communicate slower. You may process emotionally. He may process logically. You might thrive in the spotlight while he finds peace in stillness. But if your values beat in the same rhythm, if your visions for life, love, and faith are walking in sync, then you've got something real. Let me give you a picture. It's like two instruments in a song. One is a piano, steady, grounded, elegant. The other is a saxophone, soulful, unpredictable, emotional. Alone, they sound nothing alike, but together they create music that moves people. That's alignment. You don't need to be twins, you just need to be tuned into the same song. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And when you're with the right person, you don't have to trade that privilege for proximity. You don't have to sacrifice who you are to keep the peace, because real love doesn't demand sameness. It celebrates difference while building toward a common purpose. So let me ask you this. Do you both want to grow? Do you both value honesty? Do you both see love as sacred, not convenient? Because you can speak different emotional languages and still want the same things. You can love differently and still build toward the same destination. Imagine it like this. Two people walking the same road but wearing different shoes. One might move faster, one might stop to rest, but both are headed the same way, committed to walking side by side, not ahead, not behind, together. That's what God is after. A connection where your individual personalities don't compete, they complement, where your passions fuel each other, where your strengths fill the other's gaps, where you might argue about dinner but agree on destiny. And listen, if that sounds rare, it's because it is. But rare doesn't mean impossible. It means intentional. And when you find it, you'll feel it, because that kind of alignment feels like home, not because everything's familiar, but because everything is safe. So no, the man God sends may not finish your sentences. He may not match your playlist or fold the laundry the way you like, but when you look at him and you look at your future, you see the same horizon. That's the clue, that's the compass. And because when your values are aligned, even your differences can walk in agreement. Now stay with me, because up next, we're talking about what happens after the fire, after the years, after the trials. Not a love that fades, but a love that deepens. A bond that gets weathered, not worn out. Let's finish strong. Number 8, your love feels weathered, not weakened. God didn't promise you a man who'd keep the rain from falling. He promised you someone who'd still be holding your hand when it does. That's the kind of love we're talking about, my friends. Not the glossy, Instagram-filtered love that only shines when life is easy, but the kind of love that's been tested, weathered, that's held up in the storm and come out softer, wiser, deeper, not weaker. Because real love, real God-anchored covenant kind of love, it doesn't wear out, it wears in. Think of it like leather. Brand new leather looks perfect, shiny, uncreased, untouched, but it's stiff, it squeaks, it hasn't been lived in yet. But over time, through heat, sweat, pressure, life, it softens. It molds, it carries stories in every crease, and suddenly it's not just a product, it's a reflection of the journey, and that's what your relationship should feel like. Not brittle, not fragile, but broken in with grace. Worn by laughter, by arguments that turned into apologies, by long talks at midnight and silent rides home where nothing needed to be said. Every wrinkle in your bond should whisper, we've made it through that too. See, a lot of people confuse new love with strong love. But let me tell you something, longevity doesn't just come from passion. It comes from partnership, from choosing each other over and over, even when the newness wears off, especially when it does. The man God sends you, he's not just good at beginnings. He's faithful through the middle. He's steady when the story starts to get real. He's not afraid of monotony, of quiet seasons, of those days where love is less fireworks and more fortitude, because he knows that commitment isn't a feeling, it's a decision, daily. Carl Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And transformation takes time. It takes pressure. It takes fire and friction and faithfulness. So yes, there will be days when you disagree, seasons where you drift, moments where one of you is tired, quiet, maybe even a little distant. But the bond doesn't break, it bends, because you've built something that's not dependent on mood or moment. You've built something that's endured. He may not always say the perfect thing, he may fall short, but he's still there, soaked by the same storms, scarred by the same battles, still walking beside you, not out of obligation, but out of love refined by time. That's how you know. When your love doesn't feel like a performance anymore, it feels like home. When you can look at him across a crowded room and the peace you feel in your chest says louder than words ever could, we've built something that time couldn't weaken. And now, my friends, we've walked through all 8, the signs, the soul ties, the sacred storms. But don't go just yet, because what comes after recognizing the right man is learning how to become the woman who receives, nurtures, and expands that love with God at the center. Stay with me. The journey's not over, it's just beginning.